Premiere Pro effects I use to make me look like a pro when I'm really not. Let's jump to the first one, the inverted color text effect. Now I see this one all over my feed and I think it looks super clean. Now if you're an editor and you're editing anything relatively trendy, you need to know how to edit this one. The cool thing is it's super simple. So first you're just gonna throw your footage into your timeline and then you're gonna throw your text on top and then move it up to V3. Next, duplicate your footage and put it over top. Then on this top footage, we're gonna add the invert effect and then the track matte key effect. Now, while you have that footage selected, go over to the track matte key effect and click video 3 under matte. And now it should look something like this. Already looks super cool. What this is doing is it's taking the bottom footage and then using the top footage above that as a cutout. And so when you have the inverted mountains, it's using the inverted text as the cutout for that footage. And so it looks like this. Now you can customize this however you like. I like to go into the blend mode and change it to make it look different. For this one, I use the subtract blend mode so that it looks dark on a light background. Now let's say you wanted to add more text with the same footage, but it was a different color. You would just place that text above, and then under that, you would put another duplicate of that footage, cut it to the length of the text, and then make sure you go into the properties and select the matte key for the video that that text is on. So for this case, it would be video 5. And so it looks something like this. Now for this one, I'm customizing it to make it look a little bit different. For the word color, I want to use some color. And then pro tip, if you want to customize it even further, go into Lumetri color and then adjust the saturation, the contrast, the brightness to make it really stand out how you like. Now for our second one, a really clean look is the single cam parallax effect. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna place our footage into our timeline, and then we're gonna try and select a keyframe where we are taking up the least space. What we're trying to do is find a frame where we can remove me and then generate a new background. So here I found this frame. Then I'm gonna throw into ChatGPT and just say remove me. And it comes out with a result looking like this. I can't believe it can do that. Download that. And then throw it into our timeline. And then in the beta version of Premiere Pro, we're gonna click the object mask tool and then select me, who is the subject. Takes a second here to load. And then we're gonna go into our properties panel, press the play button, and this is gonna track me across time. Once this is done, then we're gonna change to opacity mask by right clicking that. And now you can see after resizing the AI background, we have something that looks like this, which is identical to our first one. Then go into effects and we're just gonna add a blur. I think the blur just really helps separate the subject, which is me, from the background. Honestly, I think my most used effect in Premiere Pro is the blur effect, probably other than transform. Now we're gonna go in and add transform to both me and the background so that we can move it. But first we need to add a nest to the subject. If we didn't add this nest, transforming me would just move me inside of that mask. Nesting it is pretty much locking me inside that mask. And so now that it's nested, let's add a transform with keyframes on both position and scale and move it to where I'm settled. And we'll add more keyframes once I'm settled. And now we're gonna adjust me and resize me so that my face is closer to the camera. Now always we're gonna add the ease in, ease out, velocity curves because I think it looks so much better. And now we're gonna copy that node and paste it onto our background. Now here what you're gonna notice is we pretty much have the exact same thing as just doing that on the whole footage. And I agree, it already looks pretty good, but I'm just trying to get that 10% more, where it just looks a little bit better, a little bit more professional, and people are still left going, how the heck did they do that without moving a camera? So what I'm gonna do after adjusting the background to rise up so that it's a little bit more eye level with me, I'm going to go to that first keyframe and scale it way up. So there it is a little bit more. Now we're gonna scale it even more up. And you can see that's our result. I think it looks so much better. Now lastly, let's go in here and add velocity curves. I think this just makes the effect look even more, just a little bit better, and it really smooths it out. Now after that, this is what we're left with. Now what's really cool about this effect is we can actually change the background to whatever we want, because we made ChatGPT generate that background. So if we just added any background we wanted and had it zoom with the camera, it would feel really real. Now using that same philosophy, let's get to our third effect. Now I'm actually gonna add a fourth effect to the end of this third one, just as a bonus for you guys being here. But let's get to this third one. I call it the Truman Show effect. I see Diary of a CEO do this all the time. I think it looks really cool, and just removing that background, opening up the third wall, really just makes it feel like a professional edit. The cool thing is I added the space behind it, but you can add whatever you want. Okay, so first we're gonna have the same footage that we had in our last timeline, and we're just gonna go into our effects panel and delete those last few effects, the blur and the transform. So it should just look something like that, basic. But remember to keep your ChatGPT background because we're definitely going to use that here. Now here, I'm going to disable myself and then move myself up to get it out of the way, and then duplicate that ChatGPT layer. And then using the pen mask tool, we're just going to select out this wall. So I'm just going to carve out this left wall so that we can move it away. You'll see what I'm saying. Now that we have that mask, change it to an opacity mask, then copy it, and then go to the opacity of the other wall and paste it. And then just click invert. What you're doing is you're selecting everything but what's in that mask, which is just the other wall. Now you can see we have both walls here. Looks good. And now we're just gonna nest those, like the same thing I said with the last effect. You have to lock in those masks. And so we're just gonna nest them. And now on the left wall, or whichever one's on top, we're gonna add a transform effect and a basic 3D effect. Now adjust the swivel on the basic 3D and you'll see the wall kind of swivels out of the way. I'm just gonna go to 45 degrees and then add the ease in, ease out, smoothness. And then we're gonna do the same thing with transform so that it can move out of the way. Feel free to copy everything I'm doing here. Now, one pro tip, you have to make sure your basic 3D is above the transform. If not, it's not gonna work, but this is what that looks like. And so we're gonna add the ease in, ease out to the transform, and then we're gonna move that wall out of the way on the second keyframe. And then we're left with something like this. Now, that's a little fast. So let's adjust that to make it look a little bit slower. All right, still too fast. Let's do it again. And then let's adjust the velocity curve. I'm not really liking that velocity. So let's do something like this. And it should look like, yeah, there we go. Perfect. So that was super simple. We already have that. Let's get to the other wall. And to do that, it's really simple. We just copy both the basic 3D and transform effect and paste it to the other one. Now again, move the basic 3D one above the transform and then invert it. So if it's negative 45, make it 45. And if it's 45, make it negative 45. And then on the second keyframe of the transform, move it out of the way. Now I messed up a little bit. I added 3 keyframes, just delete those and then readjust the velocity curves to make them look good. And now we have something like that. Super cool. Now what we want to do is move the camera in so that the walls move out of the way and the camera comes close. But we don't want the camera to hit me, and so we have to make sure the camera goes a little bit to our left, just over my shoulder. And so I'm going to nest both of those walls together since we already have that animation done. And so now we have a walls nest, and I'm going to add a transform node so that the camera moves towards the walls. And there, I'm going to scale it up. And then I'm going to adjust the velocity curve to look something like that. I think that looks good. And then we're just going to copy that and then paste it onto the subject, which is me. Okay, there we go. Now, one problem is, as you're seeing, I am moving into the camera. So what does the camera do here? Well, so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to move me out of the way. And so all I'm doing is I'm adjusting the second keyframe to make me closer to the camera and also to the left. Okay, after a bunch of adjusting, we have something that looks like that. So we're almost done. Last step is we're going to add a blur effect. The point of this is to make it look like the camera is coming out of focus when I get closer or when it comes closer to me, and then it focuses in on whatever's in the background. So add a blur effect and then add some keyframes before and after as I get closer to the camera. I'm going up to something like 13. And then just copy and paste that onto your walls and you're done. This is the final effect. Now, as I said before, I'm going to throw in a bonus effect, and I use this for almost all of my transitions just to add that little bit of professional feel. Again, I'm not a pro editor. I just want things to look good. And so adding a little cut doesn't really cut it for me. Was that bad? So I want to make the camera look like it's coming at me. I want to make the camera look like it's actually real. And so as it comes at me really quick, it would come out of focus and then come back in focus. And at the same time, that's hiding the cut. Even if I have a hand gesture or some sort of movement between those two cuts, it's sort of hiding that with the blur. And so let's say we have our footage like this and I have a pause in my speaking. So what we would do usually is we would just cut there, something like this, and then it would look like that. But that's not good enough. We're gonna add a transform layer to that second cut and act as a punch in. And now pro tip, if you're punching in, what you don't wanna do is you don't wanna punch in just normally, just scale it up, because the eyes might not be level. When the viewer's watching, they're looking at your eyes. And so you want to keep it eye level as you punch in. And so my hack for that is I throw this layer on top, change the opacity down, add my punch in, and then adjust the position so that my eyes are in the same level. So something like that. Change the opacity back and it should look like that. Okay, now throw on top an adjustment layer and then cut it like so. Now we're gonna throw on a camera blur effect to that. This is gonna be the camera focusing and then not focusing and then coming back to focus. And so throw a keyframe at the beginning, the middle, and the end. And then make those outer keyframes 0. And then the middle one, I did about 10. And it looks like that. Now I think that looks good, but I think we could do better. So I'm gonna stretch this out and just widen those keyframes so it takes a little bit longer. And that's what it looks like. I think that looks good by itself, but to add that little bit of pizzazz, we're gonna throw a transform effect onto the first one, put a keyframe before and after, and we're just gonna zoom in a little bit. So take it from 100% to 105%. And then on the second one, using our already transformed node there, 115% to 120%. So it should look something like that, which also looks good, but we're gonna make it look even smoother by doing the ease in, ease out, and then changing the velocity curve. So the first one, the velocity curve will be shifted to the right. The second one, it'll be shifted to the left, so the velocity remains in the middle. And there's our final result. And now for honorable mention, we're gonna throw in the fifth effect, and that is